here speaking to Claudio Storelli of Bloomberg, and we're going to talk about the launch of the app portal, which is like an app store for Bloomberg Professional Services. And during the presentation, you talked about how you were given a mandate to sort of create this app portal about 2 years ago. What's the history behind that? What were the initial goals for this service?
Sure. So I was when I joined the firm, the top management said that they really wanted to be able to open up the Bloomberg terminal in a structural way to third-party developers, whether clients or third-party software companies, so that they could bring their IP and be able to add it on to the Bloomberg terminal for one specific goal, which is to make sure that the Bloomberg terminal as a collection of functionality will always be at the cutting edge of innovations, and will also make it easier for our users who, let's face it, have the Bloomberg terminal. We like to think that that consumes 99.9% of their workflow, but realistically they're using different types of applications alongside it. That means that they're often toggling back and forth and between different applications. Those applications might have consistency of data, maybe not. The user is forced to then copy and paste tickers from one to the other, or even a lot of times you see users writing them down on a piece of paper and rewriting them. That is just a suboptimal, and since we realize that we don't have a monopoly over the IP that is in the financial space, management thought it's a good idea to open up and make sure there is interoperability between the different applications that are on the desktop of our users, so that when a user is on the Bloomberg, they know that one, they'll find the latest and best content that you can find of analytics anywhere in the world, and second, that it'll all work seamlessly, thus providing the best user experience the user can get.
So how do the apps work for the end user? Are they an added service, or are they part of the overall Bloomberg terminal?
So because the IP is controlled by a third party, the third party, as a business to sell software, then that add-on service will have an additional cost. We don't set that cost. We don't interfere in the process. The goal of the app portal is to be a platform through which great content can be made available. So say that you're a software house and you decide that for a specific client you're going to cut the costs because they're getting a certain number of licenses. We honor that. We don't interfere in the negotiations. We just act as the enablement process to make sure that everything goes according to plans. And that includes making sure that the mechanisms are in place to avoid users going on a shopping spree in the middle of a cost-cutting environment, so that if a market department says, you know what, we want to have full control over what gets added to our bill or not, we put in place seamless processes so that market data or whomever in the administration within the firm will need to formally approve any purchase or request for a purchase that a user may make.
What's the commercial arrangement with Bloomberg?
It's a royalty share agreement, so we retain 30% of the revenue and 70% goes to the vendors.
So how are the apps sort of arranged for users? Are there like a list of the most popular, or how are they presented?
That element will continue to mature as the product matures and the number of applications grows. At the moment, we kept it very simple and intuitive. We have top 6 applications by number of users that are displayed at the bottom of the splash screen, and then the applications are then logically structured based on the type of the step in the workflow where they fit. So we have equity screeners, data analysis, visualization, technical analysis, portfolio management, and then the users can easily browse all the applications, browse the category, or search for a specific name. It's actually in the plans over the next year or so to start developing more top categories to make sure that we help the user find whatever they're looking for, even if they don't know the name of the application.
So, opening up the Bloomberg community is a pretty obvious benefit to these third-party developers. What's the advantage for Bloomberg, outside of it being seamlessly integrated with Bloomberg data?
So the advantage for Bloomberg is if we become the platform where all the best content is, and that content is fully seamlessly integrated with the Bloomberg terminal, then we're adding value to our users. We're allowing the user to get more out of their terminal. Let's take a simple example where the user already has application XYZ on the desktop, so they don't even use the app portal as a way to find new content. they just use it as a way to take that same content, but in a way that seamlessly integrates with the Bloomberg terminal, thus greatly reducing the transaction costs involved with using the two apps. Well, the user is now paying the same amount for the Bloomberg, is paying the same amount for the application, so their spend is exactly the same, but they're getting more value out of their Bloomberg subscription and the application, because now the two work seamlessly together, and those transaction costs that were a pain in the neck for every one of the parties involved has been reduced thanks to the technological innovations that we made.
So I just had a final question, which is, you mentioned that a lot of the applications revolve around pre-trade analytics or post-trade. Why have you stayed away from the sort of trade execution side?
Primarily because we want to make sure that we walk before we run. So we want to start with let's call it simpler application from a legal and compliance perspective. And so pre-trade and post-trade analytics tend to have a UI component that is locally deployed, consume data, and then it's very simple from a technology perspective. We want to make sure that, again, because the name of the game here is security, we want to make sure that everybody's comfortable with the model. We first master that. We get full acceptance in the market from the users to the market data departments and the business owners, and then we'll look to expand the model according to all the rules that are in place as time allows.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.